Have you ever noticed mindset is missing in sports today? More kids, even pros, are breaking down, not from a lack of talent, but from pressure. Welcome to the Championship Mindset Podcast. This show is really for athletes, parents, coaches, anyone who wants simple tools, ideas to think clearer, perform better, and enjoy the game and life again. We also talk through real issues in today's sports. I'm Spencer Sen, a former athlete turned hypnotherapist and high performance mindset coach. Realistically, an injury years ago ended my career, and my life spiraled out of control. I had no identity except as that athlete. And years later, God put resources in my path to not only heal me, but help control my mind and manage my emotional states. See a need for that today, right? Now I help others starting at the age as early as 10 upgrade their mental software, fun, fast, permanent with confidence, identity, focus, resilience, grit, anxiety, and stress management, everything they need so they can perform their best in sports and life. And today's guest, youth baseball from the inside, Jim D'Angelo. He's served West Bend Little League. Okay, the community that I live in, I grew up in Grafton. West Bend is a little west of that. And he's been helping out there for over 17 plus years. And the last 7 to 8 as president of West Bend Little League. He's coached from machine pitch, U16, help build players, parents, and community. So we'll dig into what's changed, what must come back, how to build culture that lift kids on and off the field. Jim, happy Friday. How are you, man? How was your week so far?
Uh, can I say I'm happy it's done?
Absolutely.
I am excited to be on here with you, Spencer, and thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you coming on. I mean, there's so much we can talk about, right? Like we said, we can talk for days. And just a little bit ago, we were talking about the Brewers, right? I mean, talk about needing mindset, talk about needing focus and resilience, right? What have you noticed so far out of the 3 past games?
You know, as we were discussing earlier, I think a lot of things really became evident to me after game one, and that is, first of all, they look tired to me.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'm just, and we can all Monday morning quarterback this stuff to death all the time, but
Right.
from an approach at the plate, I don't understand it. When a guy's feeding you nothing but off-speed pitches, but yet you're swinging at things like they're fastballs and you're trying to pull everything. To me, the approach didn't seem right, and I don't know if that's coaching or if that's nerves or what it is, but they just didn't seem to have the proper focus and as you call it, the mindset as to how to approach this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can honestly say I'm disappointed in so many different areas. And one of them is, and I shared this with you before, is the energy. I mean, when the camera goes on the dugout and there's no energy, and it's guys chewing on sunflower seeds and spitting on the ground, and nobody is motivating. I mean, motivation, you have to create it from within, and that creates energy, just like throwing the ball. It's energy. And the Brewers pitching has been phenomenal. We haven't been able to get hits. I think we've had less than maybe or 9 hits in 3 games. Um, whether it's kids or whether it's pros, I see the same things happening. It's just pros are getting paid millions of dollars to go out there and at least entertain. And what I said to you before this when we were talking about it, the coaches are not having fun. The players are not having fun. The fans are definitely not having fun. I mean, what are we doing? It's really hard for me to sit and watch that stuff and then go, like I'm telling my wife, holy cow, I mean, kids are watching this. What are they getting from this? You know?
Absolutely, and you're right. We can segue this into youth sports, youth baseball in our situation here. But the thing with at least with youth baseball, is that you're there watching. Typically, you're watching your child, or you're watching your grandchildren, you're watching your nieces or nephews or whatever,
Right.
and so the interest level is there for that. But you're right. We've got to continue to motivate and create enthusiasm and the love of the sport. I think that's a big thing. And I was talking to my wife about this earlier, and I was trying to go back in my mind as to because one of the questions you had asked me in a previous conversation was what's changed over the past, in my case, 17 years, but heck, I could go back and talk about when I was little for that matter too.
Mm-hmm.
And every day we were outside playing ball.
Right.
You know, I don't care if it's basketball, football, baseball, but we're outside playing ball, whether it's in the backyard or we're hopping on a bike and we're going down to the local park. And we love the game and we love to play it. And I didn't care how we played it, whether it was wiffle ball, tennis ball, baseball, hardball, whatever, you know. And nowadays it's so simple just to sit there and stare at that little handheld device that people like. You look around, it's somewhere near you, right?
It's right here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, you know, my wife is really good at this. She'll shut the phones off.
Yeah.
And she'll say, okay, outside, and spend a half hour outside. But it was different back in the day. My parents had to convince me to come inside to do something. We never wanted to be anywhere but outside.
For sure.
And it's just different now.
Same with me. Ring the bell, time for dinner, whatever. You know, my mom never knew where I was. And it's really that, and you said the love for the game, right? I mean, I always had a love for every single sports. And that's one of the things I see lacking. And, you know, as I've gotten back into coaching, I coached years ago, then I got out, I'm going back in now. I've seen this lack of fun happening and pressure building. And not just that, a lack of, and this might ruffle some feathers as we've talked about before, but, you know, coaching respect, coaching resilience, coaching, you know, all of these different character building assets that kids need once sports end. We've got to be teaching our kids these things in sports, not just, you know, matching colored glasses and these fancy uniforms and all this. We've got to get back to the basics and really put our attention into it as coach and parents for these young kids. And, you know, one of the things in what I do as a sports hypnotherapist is I help kids see, okay, I use a lot of visualization. And I did when I was a kid. I would visualize how I would play before games. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. It just happened. And, you know, so they can then, when they see it, when you see something, it's like that phrase, seeing is believing, right? Then you begin to feel. And when you feel it, that gets you excited and you want to be motivated to go and play. But I don't see that happening in coaching today, getting that connection where the kids are feeling it and then they want to go and do it. It's more like do this, do this, do this, do this in a drill. And a lot of times kids are asking, well, you know, why?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. I mean, those are the things I was asking you. What have you seen from back then that have changed to like now in coaching and in other stuff?
It's a big topic. We could probably spend this entire period of time talking about it. I think you and I had mentioned this before. When I first started doing some of these things with the Little League in West Bend, and I was a director of a division, at one point we had like 15 teams at the 9 and 10-year-old level, and I had 25 people that wanted to coach a team.
Right.
Now I'm lucky to get to 6 or 7 teams at that particular level and find 3 people that want to coach. And so nobody wants to get involved anymore. They all kind of, you know, they do this, they look the other way. The other guy's going to take care of it. I think a lot of times sometimes they don't think they've got the knowledge to do it. But I think everybody has it within them. Most people have it within them to be able to lead, organize, teach. Obviously, some are better at it than others. But the biggest thing to me is it comes down to communication.
Yeah.
You know, You've got to communicate, and communicate helps in a lot of ways. First of all, it helps the parents. Parents need to know what's going on.
For sure.
Because when they don't know what's going on, they sit up in the stand and they form their little clique. And you talk about ruffling feathers. Here I go.
That's
But they sit up and they get in their little cliques up in the stand, and they're talking to each other about what they see and what they don't see on the field or in the dugout or whatever. And and now that is nothing but becomes a negative force against it. And it also helps. It's one of the prohibiting factors of wanting to coach.
You know? Exactly. And it's not necessarily, because I've processed this for many hours. It's not necessarily a negative for parents to be doing that. The negative is when they start yelling at players on the field. Okay. That's when it becomes a negative, distracting, confusing. That could go on. But it shows, remember, energy. The parents want to see their kids progressing, right? And I hear this word development. We're developing players. First of all, no, we're not. Maybe years ago we were, but we're not developing players. I get tired of hearing that word. Okay. Parents want to know what's going on, so they're having input. And that's when things that communication becomes so important. Communication from the coaches, having all the parents together before the season, setting guidelines, structure, whatever, and intention, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of things that you're talking about, right?
And setting expectations.
Yeah.
I gave you the example the other day. I would always tell, and I think every little league coach, I can't speak for club teams because I'm not a part of one, but at least from the level that we play at, the little league level, and rec teams for that matter too. Yeah. You set your expectations, and I would always say everybody's going to pitch. Everybody's going to pitch. Yeah. And my favorite story is always that one year when I did that, and after it was done, the mom said to me, she goes, I love your enthusiasm, but don't lie to me. I go, what did I lie about? Well, you said my son's going to coach. I've heard that every year, and the kid was 13 at the time. And I said, well, he should have been pitching every year. Well, she says, well, you're lying to me. I said, no, I'm not. I said, and you know what? He pitched. Every kid pitched like they should. But that's expectations you're setting. If you're going to say it, you got to do it as a coach.
Absolutely.
And it's something else that you talked about that I wanted to kind of build upon, and it goes with communication, is when you're setting up practices and you talk about, and I talk about stations. You got, especially when you got young kids, right?
Right.
If you don't have stations, you're hurting cats, and no coach wants to deal with that. So you set up your stations and you do your drills, but you don't do it just to fill that hour and a half up. They have to be done with a purpose and a meaning. Exactly. And I don't care. Right now I'm helping out with a 8-year-old team. They're 7 right now, but they'll be 8 next year.
Yeah.
And I don't care how old they are. They listen and they get it. You tell them, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're going to do it.
Exactly.
And then when we're done, you pull them all together and you say, now, why did we do this? And what did you learn from this? And what were the reasons for doing it? We're building power. We're building strength. We're building speed. We're working on hand-eye coordination. But you have to connect all those dots together. And if you don't, you're just going through the motions. And to your point, you're not developing. You're just filling time.
Exactly. Knowledge and an understanding of the game. Once that starts to happen, then you can start strategizing, right? That's when kids understand it. Like I said, see, feel, do, right? And keeping simple drills. So what are we developing, right? What are we developing for real? We're developing throwing, catching, hitting, running, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, these are simple drills that, and this is another part that we talked about, getting parents more involved, whether it's taking kids to games to see them play, whether it's practicing with them for a few minutes outside, whether it's one thing that I know as a coach and see, there needs to be 3 people at a practice, and 1 or 2 can be parents, even if there's only 1 coach. You have 3 stations, simple. You guys throw it from here and run. Have somebody on first base. Have somebody in the outfield that has the ball and somebody covering second. You run, and I'm the other one from the outfield throws it, catch it, tag it. Just get them moving. Do it for 10 minutes. Then have another drill set up, where you're throwing fast, grounders to them and they're picking it up, moving, throwing, pointing the glove, so they're starting to understand these motions. And like you said, when you're done, but you have to have parents there, and they don't need to understand the game. They don't need to coach. They just need to support the drills, right?
Right.
And this will help what the parents want, what the coaches want in that early stages of playing. That's where we start developing. And then we can get into that understanding. And now we're developing our mind. We're building resilience. How do we do that? Well, when there's a mistake, you always focus on the positive. First of all, you showed up. Second of all, you had the energy and discipline to make the play. Did you make a mistake? Yeah, but now that mistake shows you an experience of what to do right the next time, as opposed to criticizing and just not communicating, like you were saying.
And we can take, and we have, you and I together have talked about this, but we can take this one step further. Yeah, you're teaching them skills to play the game of baseball or whatever sport it is you're doing. But now you're also, because you're taking that approach of understanding why you're doing something, and then when you're done doing it, knowing what you're getting out of it, you're also building on basic people skills, of how you're gonna do that. So we're developing people. We're developing young adults at some point, and getting them ready to go out in the world and approach the world in the right method. You're not just. I've always been told by my parents, anything worth doing is worth doing right. Otherwise, it's not worth. If you're not going to go out there and try to do it right, then don't do it. And I've always said that to my kids, and I say that to all my teams too. We may not be the best team on the field, but by gosh, we're going to be we want to be the smartest team on the field.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to win games because you're smarter than the other team, or because you do things smartly. And I think but that's a life lesson too. Go about things, think through them, do it the smart way, do it the right way. Don't just go out there in life and just do something,
Sure, for sure. And the things that you're talking about really are classified under mindset. I know I'm a sports hypnotherapist, and I do a mindset training to help them unlock their code, I call it, to their own individual greatness. But there's so many things that you just said that are mindset. Everything about what you said is mindset. And in words from coaches and parents, are so much more than whistles or anything, criticism, anything like that. How they should say it, get buy-in from players, joke around with them, have fun. Coaches will have more fun. Parents will have more fun. Get people involved, get them connected, make that connection, and then things just start happening on their own. And instead, what we're seeing are kids freezing. And I know this year, this last season, 4, 5, 6 different times, kids in the dugout crying, like bawling because they made mistakes, and that for a kid should never happen. There's so many, we need to take a step back and go, okay, why is this happening? The signs are all there, and the kids are communicating. I have another kid right now that's a client, and he's telling his dad, you just want me to go to practice and play even if I'm injured in a sport I don't want to play. Okay, what is that kid doing? He's communicating, right? And the parent isn't listening. They're talking, when coaches and parents talk it's just like any of us talk at the other person. The person on the other end of that is not gaining anything from that conversation. Right. They're shutting down. And kids at an early stage, we're programming them poorly because we're not connecting. We're not doing these things. But what do you see this too? We want a W, right? we focus on getting wins at whatever at whatever that takes.
Yeah.
And I know you've seen that too.
Yeah. Wins are nice, but there's wins aren't always a W. We win in a lot of different ways, getting that kid to not be afraid of going in the batter's box and getting hit by a baseball. That if you get that kid to go up there and get through an at bat without stepping out or ducking out, we got a W,
Yeah.
Having kids know to back up throws or back up plays, that's a W when they start doing all those little things. And as a coach, it makes you smile. Yeah, I'd love to win every game I play, but I know that's not realistic. And
right.
And you talk about crying, and it's I get it. Kids are conditioned to do a lot of that when we're little, and we all cry from time to time, and there's nothing wrong with it. But in baseball, the famous line, "There's no crying in baseball," right? But I tell the kids when like they come back when they strike out and they're upset, and I get why you're upset. Don't get me wrong, but there's no reason to cry. I said, and we love this story, right? To make it into the Hall of Fame, you just got to get a hit 3 out of every 10 at bats,
right?
And you got a chance to get to the Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
And you're going to strike out, and the Brewers strike out all the time. Heck, right now they're striking out more than they ever have. So, but It happens, and what you got to do is you've got to it's a mindset, and I agree with you. You've got to want to. You got to put good swings on the ball. You got to have good at bats, and sometimes you're going to strike out because the pitcher beat you.
Yeah,
and you've got to beat the pitcher once in a while. And if you can beat the pitcher 3 out of 10 times, you're winning, and that's another W, right?
Absolutely, and helping a young person understand what you said. Baseball players get paid millions of dollars to miss 7 out of 10 times.
Right.
That's huge. It's a matter of putting things and communicating, again, going back to that communicating in ways that children can understand it. Not just children, the pros need this too. Look at the Brewers. That's where we started today, right? Before this.
Yeah.
And it's really going back to the basics, feeling into the game, helping them, love the game. Like for a coach or a parent, instead of saying, "Hey, I saw you struggling. What did you like about today's game? What felt good about today's game? Oh, yeah, well, when I did hit it that one time, or I got to run to first base, or I got that, I made that play. I caught it. I didn't throw him out, but I made the play," right? Instead of going, "You could do this better," or "You could do that," or "You should do this." What is that saying? It's like when we're at school, okay, the school system. What happens when you get a test back? 10 questions. You got 3 wrong in red with a circle. It should be you in green. You got 7 right. That creates reward, right? A reward mindset, a positive mindset. And then it will turn into, well, excuse me, I want to know what the answer is to the 3 I got wrong. There's curiosity. There's interest. See, we're being programmed the wrong way. And, all the things that we're talking about with coaches and parents, it's also not their fault because society, the system has been programming in this negative offset. And I say it all the time. Why? So we don't reach our best. So we stay consumers. But we have to get back to where we're giving our kids the tools, and it's easy I have coaches say, well, they don't understand what mindset is. We've talked about so many different approaches. And even if you just focus on communication, positive, find the positive in every negative first. And that will shape your communication to parents, to players, to other coaches, right?
Yep. You see this after every game. I was thinking of this while you were talking about this. You see this after most games where a coach will, all right, we're going to go out the right field or left field. We're going to huddle up and we're going to talk about the game. Or maybe you got to get off the field. We go out behind the dugout or something. And you talk about the game. Now, mind you, all of this changes at every age, but in general, it's kind of the same things. It just becomes a little bit different tone as you get older. But you want to sit down, especially when they're young, when you're talking, and I deal with kids down to 4 years old now in Little League. But when they're younger, you want to sit down and talk about, all right, what did you see? What happened this game? What did we do that we did really well? And now I want you to tell me, what do you think it is we got to do better? Did we make a lot of base running blunders? And maybe that's where we've got to spend a lot more time in practice working on our base running. Did our pitchers, were we throwing enough strikes? Were we getting the ball over the plate? Were we walking too many people? Now we got to spend a lot more time developing our pitchers. But we focus on the positives there. Yeah, there's negatives. But, and again, as I said before, as they get older, we probably speak to the negatives a little bit differently because they can handle it a little bit better. But when they're like I was telling you earlier, I'm working with 7-year-old kids right now. Mm-hmm. But earlier this summer, I was dealing with 14 and 15-year-old kids. You want to talk about two different ways to talk to people,
for sure.
Yeah. I want to be buddies with and be friendly and fun with everybody, but you talk to the 14-year-olds that way, you talk to the 7-year-olds a whole nother way, because they're a lot more sensitive now. And you can't just bark at them and tell them, well, that's wrong and you got to fix it. And you've got to really, as you said earlier, you got to accentuate those positives and show them that the right way to do that is this. And you know what? You did most of it right. But there's this one or two things that we've got to fix, and then we've got it nailed, and then we're going to move on to the next thing.
Right. Just getting them interested in that, and like spot the good, not the negative. Reset. Breathing is a huge thing. Kids are over anxiety attacks. Okay, breathe. Brief visualization. Clear out the old, the bad, the mistake, whatever. But here's the deal. We need to help them understand that mistakes are necessary. Failure is necessary for peak performance, because it's like this. You don't know what happy is if you don't know what sad is. And you don't know what sad is if you don't know what happy is. So how is sad bad? It's not. It's just a necessary part of life, just like success and failure, whether it's sports or business or anything. You have to fail in order to succeed. It's literally a 50-50 deal, and I've learned that in my time. But helping kids understand that at an early age, that will take so much pressure off of them, where they're not, melting down and just because. Like this kid that I'm working with, he said, and he's far beyond this now because he's working with me. He now wants to go and play. He doesn't care about the mistakes. Why? Because his mindset, he understands and he's in control of what he wants, the focus, how to handle it, and then using tools, breath work, visualization, all kinds of stuff, self-positive talk, internal dialogue, keeping the joy in the game. And then when he does something good, he's even that more happy. Right. Yeah. And getting kids to play hard as they understand it, where you can use tough love. Okay. You can push kids, but in a loving way. Mm-hmm. All right. When you're yelling at them, nothing is getting accomplished. Right.
And you and I talked about this too the other day. There's not one cookie cutter method for every child.
Right.
And I mean, I've often been told by people, treat everybody the same. Well, you can't treat everybody the same because we're not all the same. And some people deal with things that have acronyms associated with them. And you talk to them differently. You punish and reward them differently. And you teach them differently. And then, I have a son that suffers from anxiety. I talk to him differently. I work with him differently. I've got another son who does, to you, talk about a kid going out there and not worried about failing. My son never worried about failing because, he just knew that he'd have another at bat coming or another chance to feel the ground ball or whatever it was, and he moved on from it. So yeah. It's a world, and that's a piece of coaching that I think is more of a humanistic thing. You don't have to know baseball to understand people.
That's exactly right.
And you can sit there, and I think this is a skill that more people should learn. And being able to look at somebody and sense the glazed over look, like they're not getting it, they're checked out, or they're faking the checking in, or the guys that are really soaking it up and getting it. If I'm in a especially with these 7-year-olds, if I'm in there and I'm talking, and I like to talk, I have to stop myself once in a while because I see them zoning, and I'll stop and I'll just stare, or if they happen to be talking while I'm talking, and I'll just stare, and they'll know time to pay attention again and go. But these are things that I think that's a human skill. That's not a baseball skill,
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. And we were talking about, when we were talking about the Brewers earlier, before before we came on, I was sharing with you, I grew up as a left-handed pitcher, and I was very good at it. And my father had a friend that was a pitching coach for the Toronto Blue Jays and taught me spitters, knuckles, curveballs, all of this stuff in Little League. Yeah. And I would pitch full games, and we were taught what we were talking about. And because I'd go home and put ice on and I'd lay in bed just like, oh my God, it hurts so bad. 2 days later, I had another game, whatever. Just kept pushing through it. But training kids right fundamentally also in the skills, instead of, like I'm seeing more and more today, coaches, parents wanting their kid to specialize in pitching or this or that. They need to open it up and not put pressure and not teach them, because it screwed my arm up for life. Where in the Brewers game the other night, perfect example, not last night, but the one before, the pitcher on the Dodgers threw less than 5 fastballs. It wasn't about throwing heat. I can't tell you how many times I hear coaches say, I like the speed. I like the speed. Learn and worry about getting consistent in the strike zone. Don't worry about the speed. And as that confidence builds, you can then build on top of that, as opposed to, you've got the form, now keep throwing it harder. What I'm saying is we need to focus more on the consistency of training on the basics, where we'll go back to those drills. So when they get in those game moments, they have muscle memory of what to do in each of those positions or opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boy, there's a lot of things to unpack there for me. Without getting into coaching philosophy, arm care is a huge, huge thing for me. Now, I'm never going to stress it for the kid who's 7 or 8 years old, because they're rubber at that point, and they tend to. At that point, you try to. The goal with kids who are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old is to teach them the proper throwing motion. I think that's key right there. Is all about the basic fundamentals.
Yeah.
But some people are, and I have a son who is like that. He never had an arm problem, because they're I don't want to call them freaks of nature, but they're just built differently. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That they have just their arms can move in different directions no matter how they throw. They don't have arm problems, and they can deal with it. But most people don't have that in their body, and you need to work on arm care I would say from about 10 or 11 years old and on.
Yep.
To strengthen that arm up. And it's not a 1 month or 3 month out of the year job. It's a 12-month thing. And I'm talking about things like banding, and things like that, and weighted ball toss. And but not, again, it goes back to what I said before. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody can withstand, thank God we have pitching limits now, pitch counts, that you can't go out and throw that kid 200 pitches anymore.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have that when I pitched.
I personally am not a fan of teaching kids to throw curveballs. I've seen it all over the place. I've heard so many people tell me, well, if you throw it this way, you're safe.
Yeah, no.
You know what? You go ahead and take that risk. I can tell you, in my 17 years of coaching, I have never sent a kid on to high school with any arm trouble. Every
Yeah,
kid that's gone on to high school has had a solid arm. Now, if it gets screwed up there, it's because of what you taught them to do. But
exactly.
it's not going to happen on my watch. Just put it that way.
Exactly. I'm a result of what you're saying, and I'm 100% against that kind of stuff until later in their, in high school, later years, junior, senior. So we could go on for weeks. I know, man.
Yeah, we could.
I know. One of the things I want you to share with anyone that's seeing and hearing this, or will hear it in the future. I know you want to get more going with the West Bend Little League. What can you present and ask people to help with? And what you need to not only grow the organization, but help get coaches, parents involved, and more play and more kids wanting to play.
Well, I mean, the big thing, there's a whole laundry list of reasons that I think are out there and valid to play in Little League. I mean, which starts with what we're all about. We teach our motto: character, courage, and loyalty, which are three very important pieces to the human puzzle and creating who we are today. I mean, character right there,
Yeah.
But we're a community-based organization. They're all across the United States. They're across the world, for that matter. And you see it on TV. I think a lot of people forget that Little League in West Bend or in Grafton or in Cedarburg or wherever we are, we move at the end of our seasons. We have tournaments that allow you an opportunity to move on to higher level tournaments.
Yes.
Ultimately, the Little League World Series, right? So there are lots of opportunities to do those kind of things. But for the most part, I say from a player standpoint, you're going to play a lot of games, but you're going to make a lot of friends, and you're going to make a lot of lifelong friends that you're going to play ball with or whatever it is you do in high school. I mean, that's where this all moves on to next, is getting them ready for high school.
With or against.
Yeah, but on to volunteers. Volunteerism is a dying thing. All right. I hate to say it, but it's a dying thing.
Well, we need to bring it back.
Yeah, we need more people to volunteer.
This is for the kids, right?
I would love to get back to the day where I'm having to have coaches send me basically resumes so I can figure out who's the best coaches to be at the level. I don't have that problem. It's so bad, Spencer, that I have to actually, when I form teams, have to go to the parents' meeting and talk about everything that's going to happen, and then pretty much drop the keys in the bag and say, I'm out of here. One of you are going to have to step up. And ultimately somebody does. But it shouldn't have to be with a gun to your head saying, right. Go do it, right?
Here you go. Here's the keys. We'll see if we have any teams.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It shouldn't have to be like that. As I preach to everybody, and I send emails out a lot in Little League. Spencer, you know that. Yes. I'm a communicator.
Yes, you are.
Coaching is not a scary thing. It's a very rewarding thing. There's nothing better than bumping into a kid 15 years later, and I've done it. He'll have stopped me and called, hey, coach, how you doing?
That's right.
And just to be called coach knows that that's a piece of me that touched him or her along the way, and that they remember it, and they haven't forgotten the things that we've gone through together and we've worked on together. And so I would say from a reward aspect, it's huge. And you'll never, ever forget those times that you've spent with those kids and those relationships you've built. You don't have to be a baseball savant to be able to coach baseball. Number one, can you organize? And number two, can you operate a computer and be that admin side? If you can do that, you're a head coach.
And that's just
because you can bring people in who are assistants. You can learn things along the way to teach you how to teach baseball. It's just, we need to give the kids the opportunity. And the only way they get opportunities to be on a team is if someone wants to lead that team. And that's what we need more of.
Absolutely. And this is all about the kids, right? So parents wanting the kids to develop, coaches wanting to be there and do it. We need to come together. And like where you and I started on this a while ago, we've got to change the culture. Yep. Safe, positive, fun. Culture drives behavior. Culture needs leadership, right? So like a couple of things I put together to finish out, culture, mindset, teach focus, calm, reset, foundation and education first by communicating, right? Communication is the third thing. Talk and connect with the kids, not at them. Explain why. Ask, do you understand why I'm telling you this? Do you understand why this is important? Then that creates the fourth, the connection, where they see that you're caring, and then coach. Trust unlocks that coaching, right? Character, respect, teamwork, integrity, model it daily. We have to lead by example at home as parents and then as coaches. All right. And we need to work together. Simplicity. None of this is rocket science. If there's one coach, we need two parents at practice so we can have three drills, right? And the coach will direct by having a simple plan. It's not rocket science. Collaboration. Parents help at practice. That's what we were just talking about. More hands basically is all we need. And by creating this energy and this flow and this culture, that brings in the joy for everybody, right? We're not just building athletes, we're building people.
Exactly. That's I'm glad you got there, because that's exactly what I feel about this too. Is even though we're about baseball and softball at Little League, we're actually developing people, humans, adults, eventually adults, and the only way they get to be good people and good adults is by becoming great kids, and that's what we're all about, is creating great kids.
Exactly. And I'm an example of the system, right? I only had the identity as an athlete. When I lost that ability and lost my identity, I had no idea I couldn't manage anything in life. Addiction to drugs, alcohol, relationship, career problems, until years later, like I said in the beginning, God put resources to help me. I don't want kids going through what I had to go through. Okay. And this is our opportunity at an early age to get them involved in the right way through us, through the adults. And the kids that are fortunate enough to move on and play pro or anything else, this is only going to benefit them more at that stage. And for the kids that end sports, it's going to benefit them now and after sports. This is the character part and the discipline of life, right? So, Jim, thanks for sharing your heart in leadership, and I appreciate what you're doing every day. To get involved with West Bend Little League coaching, board, supporting, or signing up a player from U8 and up, where do people go? How do people connect with you?
The website is westbendlittleleague, obviously.com. Registration for the spring season is should be starting up around November 1st. So while we just ended our fall season, we have a 2 or 3 week break, and we start up again on 11/1. There you can, if you don't already have an account, you can register your child, son, daughter, for whichever level that they qualify for, they want to play. You can, if you don't have a kid in the league. I don't have any. I guess I'd have more kids in the league now that I've remarried, but for a while I didn't have kids in the league, and I still coached.
Yeah.
And so you can register and become a coach, and then of course umpires. Anybody out there that wants to give by being an umpire, register on our site as an umpire. If you're a youth or you're a high school player and you want to get involved and do some umpiring and make some money on the side, we have classes that we offer for that as well. We are also working on coaching clinics for those people that may not feel they're strong enough at a coaching level. And we're going to be developing a program for that as well. So sign up, www.westbendlittleleague.com. And you can find my email address and my phone number in there too, if you want to talk.
Awesome. So they're expanding baseball, softball, rebuilding culture around what matters, the kids. So you can catch this replay live right away on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and the audios are going to be released on Spotify, Apple, and then there's like 8 or 9 other 10 other platforms under Championship Mindset. You can find me on YouTube, Championship Mindset -1, Facebook, Championship Mindset, LinkedIn is under Spencer Sen, Instagram at Championship Mindset 1. If your child needs confidence, resilience, identity, bounce back tools, anything related to mindset to help them go to their next greatest level, perform the best in sports and life. Go to freedomandhealing.com, book your free discovery call, and I'll tell you exactly what I do and how it works, and the results are guaranteed. God bless. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Keep mindset first in the forefront of your mind. It drives the rest. Elevate your mind and elevate your game in life. And we'll see you soon.